to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we are featuring Michigan State head coach Jonathan Smith's general session talk from the 2023 AFCA Convention. In this conversation, Coach Smith reflects on those who have impacted him throughout his football journey, discusses how he recruits his players and his staff, and talks about the ever-changing nature of college football. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Smith.
Pleased right now to be joined by this gentleman, Jonathan Smith.
Yeah, good to be with you, man.
Jonathan's a member of our Board of Trustees, representing the Pac-12. And as we all recognize, as you heard in the bio, a guy that was a celebrated player the last time at Oregon State, whenever they had great success, was during his leadership in a different way at quarterback. Came back as a coach. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges of actually kind of coming home. But it's taken Oregon State to a place that they haven't been in quite some time. And congratulations on that. Very much appreciate you joining us. Yeah. This is also going to be an interactive, which is a little bit different. We've done these at other conventions. For those that haven't done it, we really encourage you to take the opportunity. Again, with the Slido, we have an opportunity to take questions from you and then let me pose them to Coach Smith. And this will be very conversational, but we're excited that you're here with us today. And hopefully you enjoy this because, again, this will be a lot of fun.
Well, along those lines, 2 questions, for myself or yourself.
I don't know that anybody's interested in what I have to say.
With what you've been doing the last 6-7 years, I think there'll be some interesting stuff.
Well, we're certainly in some challenging times, and we'll get into. Obviously, you and I just came out of a big Board of Trustee meeting to where we were kind of going through some of the issues right now that we're facing in college sports, and we might hit on some of those. Let's focus on football right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your year. Probably the first thing I want to ask you. I think all of us as coaches, you go into the season, you're always excited about the players. You know there's certain things that need to happen. Was there a pivotal moment during the season this year or even in preseason to where you said, you know what, I've got my team. This is going to be a really good year?
We did feel confident that if we continue to progress through the season, we talk a lot, and a lot of coaches say it, playing our best football at the end of the year. If our process is right from the start to the finish, we're getting better week in and week out. It's tough to win, and it's competitive on all that. But I do think that because these guys took an approach week in and week out, we played our best football at the end, and we finished really well. I actually thought a pivotal point for this team was actually in spring ball. And we talk a lot about coaches, how are you going to find ways for your whole roster, 1 to 100, to take steps. And it's a lot easier when you're focused on the younger guys. That, improvement from a freshman to sophomore year, it's easier to take place than really challenge it. We had an older group. We had some guys 4th year, 5th year, 6th year, and even finding ways for those guys to take steps in maybe a particular technique or whatnot. And so back to the spring ball, we challenged and we wanted to find ways to, we had current guys on the roster, weren't ready to trust them in the game. But we felt like if we got into spring ball, invested a lot of time and reps with those guys, if we came out of it with more guys that we could trust in the game, maybe not ready to start, but contribute, it'd be huge for us. And we had multiple examples of that. Post-spring ball got us into this season. Injuries happened. Development continues to take place. We built some real depth, and that was huge for us as we went through the year.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, and you kind of touched on this, I think, a little bit just now. You're a physical football team. I mean, I watched you guys play several times. Yeah. And there are teams out, everybody talks about being physical. And in some degree, everybody is. But you guys really, really pride yourself on being physical, and I'm assuming that during that spring practice time frame, you talked about the younger players, and probably some of that really kind of came out in how physical you guys were this year, because you guys got after some people.
we want to make the game physical, and you're right. I think football is a physical game, and there's this balance, even in spring ball, of like, you want to make it physical, but also you want to keep guys healthy and going. But you got to establish a mindset, and it's really for both sides of the ball. And I think we played better defense this year, really did a great job on that side, and it helped that we tried to make it physical in practice offensively to challenge the other side and make it competitive. At Oregon State, and each setup's different, but at Oregon State, I think if you play a physical brand of football, you can finish games. And that's oftentimes talking about running the ball or stopping the run. And that played out for us this year, and being able to get a lead, hold on to a lead, make the thing physical all the way through the fourth quarter.
I thought you said something just now that I thought was kind of interesting. You said at Oregon State.
Yeah. Well,
let's talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think each team, program, and this goes through all levels. You got to work to what fits your place, what you can recruit and attain at your place.
I mean, you're going to go there.
And in some of it, this particular offensive side of the ball, I think there's still some uniqueness that we do that not everybody's doing with a physical brand, actually using a fullback, getting in 12, 21. We got 13 out there. Still the ability to spread the thing out. And so that's worked for our place, and that's how it played out.
Well, and it's interesting right now that, 2 decades ago, 1 decade ago, those things were the norm, and the spread stuff was the differential advantage. I'm doing something different, and now you've created some differential advantage by being different, by being in what 12, 13. I mean, the personnel groupings that you're in, and what we're talking about is, basically a 1-back, 2 tight end, 3 tight end, 2 back, tight end type of formation.
I do think this game is cyclical. And you look at all the way back to maybe some wishbones, wing T. Obviously, the tempo thing came on the stage, and defenses catch up. But going back all the way to I-right, running weak lead, that you're not seeing as much of that. 20 years ago, you've seen a bunch of it. And so this game's cyclical. Come on back. We huddle up, and not that there's not other teams doing it, but you try to find a way to be a little bit unique.
Hard to prepare for week in, week out.
Week in and week out, it's a little bit different for that defense and that coordinator.
That's interesting. I think, I like you, been around a little bit over the years and had 3 different head jobs at 3 really different locations. Mm-hmm. And really kind of felt like the real challenge was not just identifying my current team, but what you said earlier too about what can I recruit. Yeah. There's when I was at the head coach at Illinois State, there was a lot of linemen in that state, and I knew that I could feature that, because I knew that I was going to be able to get that. When I was head coach at Louisiana, a little bit different, and I had all this speed, and so consequently, I was trying to build things around that, and so I think it's that, but also, can you talk to your league a little bit, the Pac-12, and kind of what that league is like? Because many of these individuals, obviously, that are coaches out here in this audience. Could potentially be East Coast coaches. Yeah,
no question. I think, our location, we're in the Pacific Northwest, and when I initially got the job and surrounded myself with a big-time staff, we did talk about like what we could recruit to, and this idea of, tight end bodies, O-line bodies, making things physical, and again, giving us some time to be able to recruit and develop to that. I think that's why, we had some success this year. You look at the conference now, we got a mixture, a lot of athleticism, high-scoring offenses, different schemes, open sets, a good amount. But there's still a couple of schools that try to make the thing really physical. Utah does a phenomenal job, and again, they're getting under the center. They're playing with 12 and 2 tight ends and 13 some of the times with 3 tight ends out there. So across the league, you got some differences, but I'd still say majority are a little bit more open space, athleticism, let the quarterback do some things. And we had some big-time quarterback play in this league now. And so each year is going to be new, but I do feel confident that you got to establish identity, recruit to that identity, and keep doing it.
I want to go ahead and go to our audience here, and I saw one that passed by, and I don't think it's out there right now. But basically, the question was, and again, the biggest question you ask yourself when you come into any new head job, what do I need to do first?
Yeah.
And that was the question. What was the first thing that you did at Oregon State when you arrived?
I thought it was really important for me when I got the job is really diving into these players and letting them know that, I chose them. This coaching staff has chosen them. And it was teed up for me because it was my alma mater. And so the entire locker room, when I first got there, we didn't recruit them. I hadn't gone in their homes and done a lot of that. But the message of they've got to build some trust here. We're all Beavs here. I played here. And then we were into them. These weren't going to be like the previous staff's guys. We're all Beavs here. And then the second piece, I do think you got to surround yourself with some really good people. And over time, you took some time to do it, but putting together a staff that can be consistent and aligned with the approach we wanted to take, those two pieces were huge. So diving into your players, getting to know them, that you're bought in on them, and at the same time, surrounding yourself with some really good people that, as this head coaching thing, so much goes on. You got to have great people around you, and fortunate to what we got.
Let me ask you this, because I ran into this problem, and came in, and as you mentioned, you got to let them understand that you really care about. I care about you. You're mine.
Yeah.
And I'm yours, and let's kind of get, let's get to that point to where we're kind of accepting of each other. But at many times when you're taking over a program, you're hoping to out-recruit some of the players that you currently have.
Yeah. There's no question.
And that creates, some issues sometimes.
Well, but you got to talk about opportunity at the same time. And really, it's no different from year one. We're going to try to out-recruit the current roster. We're trying to do the same thing after year 5, right? You're always trying to recruit better and push that and always have competition in the room. And I think speaking up front to these guys, because they want to be competitive. They want to be the best they can be. If they genuinely feel they got a true opportunity, a fair opportunity, I mean, competitors will rise to the top. And I think that's across the board. That's the beauty of college football and football in general.
It's one of the great things about the game, right? Is there's daily exposure to get it done.
Yeah.
Right? Show me who you are today.
The ultimate team game, exposure, competing. There's multiple position groups, multiple opportunities, let alone if we dove into the special team things of opportunity to give back to the team. So, yeah, that's why I got into the profession.
I saw this question pop up, and I knew we were going to get here at some point in time. I think everyone, so it's kind of a segue, everyone has, I think, some affinity toward their own institution, their alma mater.
Yeah.
I had a chance at one point in time to go back to mine at the University of Tulsa as the head coach. Situation maybe wasn't right for me at that point in time. Emotionally, I was unbelievably attached, but cerebrally, I couldn't get that excited about it in the current environment.
Yeah.
And so, but I do want to, having kind of felt that a little bit, didn't do it, but felt it. Can you talk about going back to your alma mater and how exciting that has to be, but also recognize, having worked for Johnny Majors at Tennessee and listening to him talk about going home, there's kind of some unique challenges too to going back to your alma mater.
Yeah. There's some give and take on both. There's no question there's an excitement. A lot of that started with just going back to some people that were still there. I had an unbelievable time as a player, student, was around some people that made a huge impact on my life. And so that was a huge draw for me to go back to a place filled with people that I knew and cared about. Ultimately, the place kind of fit me too for where I was at family-wise. You guys might not know Corvallis, where we're at, college town, about 60,000 people. Convenient as all get out. It takes me about 8 minutes to get home from work. Got 3 kids. All of that kind of fit for the type of dad, husband, and trying to offer that also to the staff that fit me in the day and age. And then ultimately taking a shot when the program was down a little bit. That's my alma mater, to be able to go give back, take on a huge challenge and work at it in a place that fit me around some great people. And so that's a lot of the advantages and the positives about going back. There's still, there's some things about being the former player, the alum of the place that, you're drawn in a lot of different areas than maybe just the football coach of a different spot that's not his alma mater you wouldn't deal with. And that just comes with the territory. But overall, obviously, we're feeling good about things.
And should be, based off how things are going for you. It's not just your record this year, but the number of players you have coming back and even your trajectory, I think you've got to be very excited
No
about
question.
that.
I think in this business too, yeah, winning is awesome. There's no question. That's why we're here to do it. But not also losing sight of, even like the success we had this year, some of the stories of those guys that were in that first team meeting all the way back in 2018 that stuck it out and developed and turned the program around and had success on and off the field. I think some of the most meaningful time for me is senior day, when you got all, whatever it's 15, 20 guys lined up, they're coming out before the game, they're gonna get announced, and just looking at eyes and knowing some of the stories, what they've overcome, accomplished on and off the field. That's another great aspect of college football.
It is, again, all the different. I mean, I think one of the greatest things about our game, and I think everyone here can identify it with it. I came from single mom, minimum wage, grew up in Oklahoma, lived in Indian housing, the whole bit, and yet, when I walked on the field, it didn't make any difference how much money I had or who my daddy was or, if I was black or white, rich or poor, what my religion was. We get in that huddle, and Bill Curry has some great stories about this. We got the perfect society. We're out there, and it's about you and what you're going to contribute. I think that is so special, and I think so much a part of kind of culture, and what you just mentioned, that senior class meaning something to you, and you meaning something to them. Yeah. Can you talk to me a little bit about culture in your mind?
Yeah, you mentioned that. We talk about, at Oregon State, we're in the state of Oregon, and we've got about 120 guys on the roster on average. And we're probably the largest, most diverse group in the state. And there's some beauty to that, of different backgrounds, different neighborhoods, different ages, all of this coming together for a common goal and working day in and day out together. We talk about that as a team and how beautiful that is. And these ideas of family, and let's face it, there's disagreements in family, and we've got guys that are a little bit tighter to others, but we've made a huge push for these guys to all know each other, know each other's stories, because I do think it's more meaningful. I sell it this way to our guys: the more we know each other, the celebration in the locker room after the win is even better. Right, when you get into that locker room and you're hooping or hollering, but you're deeply tied in to each other, of a large group like that, coming from all different spaces, different parts of the country, different ages, all of it. It's a beautiful, diverse thing, and so you got to work on that stuff, and we do some stuff to work on it. But it makes this thing really rewarding, especially, and you mentioned in this day and age how there's so much changing, and there is, and not all of it's bad.
Right, absolutely.
But there's still the concrete things that we get into the business, and I say business, I experienced that as a player. Is like one of the reasons I got into the business, because of my experience as a player. That hadn't changed. We still got, as coaches, the opportunity to recreate a lot of the positive that's about college football.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this. This will actually be on our website, okay? And so I really encourage you. You go to our website, you get into the library. We have a couple thousand videos, 4,000 articles maybe. You can search however you want. This will actually be a part of it. But one of the other ones, and this is going to kind of lead me to my next question. Last couple days, I've been meeting with all the regional Coach of the Year winners across all levels. And one of the questions that I asked them was about the people that really influenced their lives. We all have them, right? We're on the backs of somebody else, and there was somebody that inspired us. It might be a parent or a coach or whatever, but someone motivated us. And actually, in two of the segments, I had coaches sobbing, up there on the panel with these other 5 regional coaches. There's great passion from our coaches. It's one of the great things about our profession is the passion that's endeared in it that you don't see in other professions. So I'm going to ask you that question right now about the inspirations in your life, and who led you to this place to where you're at right now, and because I know that you've got some great role models. Yeah,
some guys have made a huge impact, mentors, and it's actually a longer list. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just even think about my early time at Oregon State when I was a freshman. My first quarterback coach at Oregon State was a guy named Paul Christ, who went on and had a big-time career and head coach of Wisconsin for a long time. Anyhow, I'll tell the story quickly, but I'm dating a girl back in high school you get a little homesick, and I was thinking about quitting. And so I was there a year, get to the summertime, ready to quit, go back to junior college, back from hometown. And he purposely came over to my place and tried to, talk me out of that thing. And it really gave me some really good points. 2 days later, I was staying. And I think about, it wasn't all anything, football scheme, how impacted. I learned a ton from him. But it was really that intentionality of like, Jonathan, I genuinely want you here. I think this is best for you here. You got an opportunity here. How different my life would have been if I'd have left Oregon State after 1 year. And literally after that conversation in the driveway, I was the starting quarterback 2.5 months later and ended up starting 30 some odd games. My life would have been totally different just because a coach went out of his way to make sure I had a big picture perspective. Mike Riley was the first head coach at the time. Huge impact on me just in regards to being a head coach. Sometimes you got these stipulations or ideas of how they're supposed to operate. They're the big dog, they're the leader, they got to come across a certain way. This guy was himself, genuine, you know him well.
I know him well.
Ultra smart now. He coordinated on both sides of the ball, and so
Incredible.
That perspective as a youngster, learning the game on both sides from him had a huge impact. Dennis Erickson comes in as the head coach after Mike, finished my career playing there. You talk about competitive. Getting in front of the group, instilling some confidence and swagger to the thing, making practices competitive. Huge impact on me and as I move forward. I got a bunch of guys that influenced me when I got into the coaching thing. And that's the beauty about some of this convention is you see these guys, you hadn't seen them for 3 or 4 years, to be able to reconnect and talk to them eye to eye again. But Nick Holt gave me my first job as a full-time assistant. He had come from the Pete Carroll era at USC and established like the competition at practice. It's all about the ball, how you evaluate talent. Got my first coordinator job by a guy named Robin Pflugrad. And that really changed my coaching career in a big way. You know how hard it is when get your first coordinator job. Guys give you that opportunity. 2 phenomenal years, learned a lot about tempo and pace of play. But I'd say the biggest influence on me as a coach was when I left Montana. I went to Boise State. And the head coach is a guy named Chris Peterson, which I'm assuming most people in the room know who this guy is. But you talk about a guy in vision, inspiration, organization, creativity, back into the approach on how you're diving into the lives of the player. And we model a lot at Oregon State of what I learned from that guy, and a huge, huge influence on me.
And now, a quick word from StatsBomb. Transform your analysis with StatsBomb at AFCA booth 864. Our intuitive platform gives you an edge by saving you hours of analysis time between games, uncovering new insights, and speeding up transfer portal assessments. It harnesses the power of our aligned tracking and event data, delivering details at 10 times the granularity of legacy suppliers. This wealth of data includes in-depth physical metrics, groundbreaking visualizations, and comes with support from our experts to ensure you can confidently make the best decisions for your team. Want to know more? See our solutions for yourself at AFCA booth 864. And let's change the game together. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I appreciate those, and I want to share something with you now. And I don't know that I've shared this with you before, but you mentioned I know Mike Riley well. Mike, I was on the AFCA board. I got put on in 2001. All right, and so over the years, I've seen a lot of coaches go through the board of trustees, and Mike was a part of our board for years. And you're like you said, everything what you just said, right? I mean, just one of the most cordial guys you ever meet, one of the brightest guys I've ever met. And I remember him saying to me, he goes, "Todd, I want you to keep an eye on this guy. His name is Jonathan Smith, because he's going to be incredible." And so I wanted to pass that along. I think it's great to hear one of your mentors kind of talk, even years ago, about that he saw this in you. And this is a great segue. It's actually going to be this top question here. This is my first year at the convention. It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
What was your first convention like, and what gave you the confidence that you would be great?
Yeah.
Great question.
This convention can be overwhelming. Just so many moving parts, and I do think it's a beautiful thing. You come out here and you got thousands of people that are devoted to this game. Yeah. Because you come down here, you got an opportunity to learn, you got an opportunity to connect with others, talk plays on the napkin, reconnect. All of that's going on. So it is a beautiful thing, but it can be overwhelming. I remember, I think it was my first one, it might have been San Antonio, just going down not knowing But what I did try to do is connect with a couple of coaches that I competed against, because I had become a player and all that. And so that was a strategy of me on mine to shake a couple hands that way. Definitely went to a lot of chalk talks and took notes and still enjoy doing that, listening to clinic talks with that. Because it can be challenging, especially early on, overwhelming. But I do think the cream rises to the top. And you just keep plugging away at where you're at, always trying to learn and grow, and keep coming back. Because each convention, I think it gets easier and easier. Reconnecting with people you met the first convention in the year 5. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing out here.
Yeah, in our profession, I think one of the things that's glorious about our profession, because you wouldn't see Apple share things with Microsoft, right? Or Tesla with GM, and you come to the convention and just how open everyone is about sharing their secrets of success. I think that's incredible because you don't see that in the rest of society.
You don't. And we're all competitive, right? And we got some secrets, maybe the competitors within our league or something. But ultimately, this game, I don't know where the original thoughts of stuff came up. It's all about putting together and tweaking and seeing. We do it all the time. We watch people's tape, right? You're breaking down someone, well, guy, that's a good play. Let's put it in. And so be able to come and connect face to face. It is nice. I want to kind of throw that at you. I mean, you're head of the Football Coaches Association, long time. What's been the, beauty for you the last 6-7 years doing this?
I'll be honest with you. Whenever I first started this 40 years ago, incredible. I was at the University of Tennessee, graduate assistant. The convention was actually in Nashville. At that point in time, it was different. I mean, there was maybe 700 total coaches, almost all college at that point in time. Everybody was coat and tie. Young GA, I was actually coaching tight ends. I kind of lucked into a situation there with Johnny Majors and went to the convention not knowing what to expect, not making any money, actually $200 a month, and had a young wife, had all the aspirations. I get into the convention and I see all these people and they're all looking for the same job that I'm looking for. And I'm thinking I'm going to go to the convention, I'm going to take care. And I, quite honestly, the first day was somewhat despairing. Mm-hmm. I was, disillusioned to some degree. And I had a business degree, and I kept thinking, well, maybe I need to do something else. And I started going to the meetings, and I started kind of feeling the bonds. And back then, Coach Taff always used to talk about this too, which was true. You walked down the hallways, and everybody's door was open. We didn't have whiteboards, grease boards back in the day. Everybody had chalkboards, right? Yeah. And the chalk was just flying in these rooms. And you just walked in and you listened for a little bit and you contributed if you wanted to, and then you walked into the next room. Huh. And I found this great joy in what I was doing all of a sudden. And I remember, and I really appreciate you asking me this question. And this is going to sound a little bit self-serving, but this is actually what happened. This was why it was impactful for me, and it's why I'm sitting in this chair right now. I knew at that point in time that this was what I wanted to do. I knew I could do other things, but this is what I wanted to do. And I remember the very last day, back then we had a huge dinner. And there was a lot of pressure back then because maybe our numbers, but as a coach, you really were expected to attend everything. Okay, you were going to be noticed if you were not there. And so whether you wanted to go or not, you went because that was the expectation. That was professionally, they had already applied that to you. So I go to the dinner and I'm sitting right back here, very back of the room with kind of all the other young GA guys, right? And all of a sudden I was thinking, you know what, I love this. Maybe someday, if I'm really, really fortunate, I'll get to be a head coach. And about that moment, I see Bear Bryant, and it was just this list of Hall of Famers that were a part of the Board of Trustees that started walking across the dais. And I was like, these are the guys that I idolize. I want to be like them. Yeah. And I remember at that moment, just like it was yesterday, going, I love this game. I'm going to be a coach. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get to be a head coach, but that's maybe too far a reach. That to aspire to that is probably too much. And I got immediately, as soon as I left, I said this to our first timers the other day about, you're only going to get, only going to get out of something what you put in it. We've all heard the adage for years and years. The reason why we keep hearing it is because it's true. And when you're at the convention, get involved, get engaged. I mean, I remember Eddie Robinson was part of our board, and Eddie was always right there taking notes. I'm talking about in every meeting.
Yeah.
And it was so impressive that here's a guy that was always, I mean, one of the great coaches of history, and he's down there and he is writing down everything. And you keep putting into it, get involved with the AFCA, because it's not just going to be the people that you meet that are going to help you get jobs later on, which is what happened for me. But it's the people that you meet too that you start sharing football knowledge with, and you become brighter and smarter. And so every time I came back to the convention, to your point, it got better and better, because all of a sudden everybody that I walked through the hallway with, I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew everybody at one point in time.
And you can get better, reconnecting, talking more ball, sharing secrets, however, experience, because it's not just about schematics. I mean, how you're working, how you're recruiting, what, anyhow, within the program, the schedule, the day-to-day, the game plan, all of that. You can just find ways to improve, and it's really for all levels. We watch some stuff. We're recruiting high school kids all the time.
Right.
We'll come across a scheme or two in the high school level that, man, that fits, and creativity, and especially now with the technology and the access to so much, you can always be learning and growing.
I love this next question too, because we all faced this at one point in time. What advice do you have for somebody transitioning from playing to coaching?
Oh, yeah.
Because that one's unique.
That
That's a good
one's, it's always tough when that playing thing ends, and it's going to end for everybody. And that took me a little bit. I was down. I did have a vision even when I was playing. I was ready to get into coaching. But there's a difference. Like, you're playing, you're part of that locker room and going, at least at our building, the locker room's down on the bottom floor. The offices are on the third floor. And so when you transition from being playing to coaching, this is a profession now. This is a business. Your approach, your maturity needs to rise up, but never losing that love, passion that you had when you're playing 7-on-7 or inside run and practicing.
Yeah, the great thing about coaching is that competitive nature kind of still gets a chance you get that fulfillment.
You get the fulfillment. It's never quite the same as when you're out there playing, but it's pretty close.
Let's talk about your staff, and because I do, and I think at one point in time I saw a question that was kind of, well, there it is, because staff plays so much a role in it.
Yep.
And, I think everyone strives for staff continuity, but we all recognize that, we want our assistants to have opportunities, the same ones that we were, that we had opportunities for. And so, to that point, let's talk about kind of how you put your staff together. What are you looking for in individuals, the strengths and weaknesses? Does everybody need to have the total package, or are you looking to kind of balance things out amongst your whole staff?
Yeah, there's some big picture items that are kind of non-negotiable. We're looking for guys that are really smart, hungry, and humble. Again, some of these terms, I didn't make them myself, but I lived the experience. Back to Coach Peterson, just low ego, high output, man. And about the team and those things. We talk about it as a staff. It's a big operation. And so we can't make it perfect for everybody. We're just trying to attempt to make it damn good. Because you're part of a group. It's not always going to be perfect for each individual, but we strive to make it damn good. I do think everyone talks about the fit of the place, and the fit, what guys work well together. Obviously, there's an identity of whatever expertise they've got, but the fit of wanting to be in a college town, wanting to approach things of the game that fit with, I go back to this alignment of how starts with me, how we want to approach it. And we've been successful in regards to retaining and keeping our staff around. But at the same time, like you mentioned, we want to be a place of ascension. I was able to ascend because I was given opportunities and learning from others and going and moving up the ladder, and we want to be a place of that. We got some big-time coaches on the staff currently that could be sitting up here with you in the next few years. I'm very confident of that, and that's what you want to create. You want to create an environment that people can do their best work. And this is a big thing, and you got to trust them and go and create an environment, a culture, a day-to-day where they can truly flourish and do their best.
I loved what you said to start this off with: smart, hungry, and humble.
And humble. I mean, I started with Chris Peterson. That was a term he used a bunch. You want to be around smart people that can figure things out, not always needing the answers to the test. They're actively going and figuring it out and can improve. I think the smart people can improve their game and obviously the organization. and hungry to do it, want to improve, want to ascend, want to get more responsibility. They're smart, they're hungry, but at the bottom line, they're humble about it. It's not just about them. It's not about their own ascension. It's about the team. They got those three characteristics, whatever position we're talking about. I think they got a chance to be successful.
I do. That's a great phrase, and I think for our young coaches out there, and when you said that, I immediately thought of my 3 head coaching experiences going, that's exactly what I was looking for, is what you just described. And, so advice from him,
Yeah.
that's probably great advice for our young coaches. Keep that in mind, smart, hungry, and humble.
Yeah.
Let's change gears here a second, because we don't have, we got 5-6 minutes left. Our coaching community right now is under a lot of challenges. It's part of my role to go meet with the NCAA, the NFL. We've got all of these things where we're trying to connect dots, and yet we're dealing with people sometimes that want to move this dot, not understanding that when you move that one, it moves this one.
Yeah.
And because they're not in our world. They're good people. There's nothing wrong with the NCAA people or the people that I work with in that group. They want to try to help. They're just somewhat naive to it. And so I want to get into some negatives, because I think we're all going to face adversity, whether it be in the game of football or life or whatever. And it's in recognizing some of these adversities and saying, you know what, I don't like talking about it, but the reality of it is we got to get through this in order to get to a better place, and we will, because we're going to keep working our way through this. But I want to talk about some of the challenges. You just left our board meeting, very bright, intellectual people, and proud to have humbled, really, to be able to serve with them. But let's talk about some of the challenges. What do you think right now? I'm not talking about 3 years from now. I want to talk about just the current environment right now. What are some of the biggest challenges for our coaches? And then I want to push this out 3 years and say, 3 years from now, what are some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think we've got into a little bit of even the roster management that turns into the retention, right, and the opportunity to know your roster for the current month, let alone for the upcoming fall or upcoming season. And there's some beauty to the transfer portal and opportunities if the fit's not right for a college football player to find a new one. At the same time, for a roster size of wanting to develop in this environment, be in a place where you'd like to get guys in year 1 to get improved to year 2 to year 3 and have an idea that you can count on that taking place. That's a challenge. And I'm optimistic. I will. There's a lot of things going on with the game. And we're going to have to navigate through it. I'm just still confident we'll get to the other side of the thing. The game's too good. It's too beautiful. We got too many good people in the room trying to sort these problems out. That, we're going to go through a couple rough patches. I'd say we're in some rough patches now. But the game is still the game in regards to how ultimate team game. You could teach so much life through the game at the same time of being competitive and schematics and winning and losing. So I'm still confident that we will get there.
I appreciate that. And let's talk about your concerns for further down the road. 5 years, because some of the things you said, I'm right there with you. We're going to work our way through some of these things, and we just need some more exposure sometimes for people to see the problems before they recognize the answers. But we'll get there on that. Now let's talk about our concerns, more theoretical, 5 years down the road, a decade down the road.
I still competitive balance. There's some beauty to 85, and this is what scholarship camp you got, and distributions, and want to have this game still expand out to as many as possible, not to maybe a narrow group. And so I'd be concerned a little bit, like we can still expose the championship or this game to as many as possible. And 3-5 years, hopefully that's still the case.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add on to that, because I have some of those same concerns. Certainly the Alston case from a couple summers ago from the Supreme Court, it was huge, because it wasn't necessarily just about student athletes' opportunities and benefits. It was really about the restrictive nature of college football, that it was a monopoly, that even membership was in collusion to try to keep things down, right? That all of a sudden, you mentioned 85 scholarships, creates this great parity, equity. It's served the game well over these years. but it's somewhat anti-American in the sense that you're going to tell this university that they can only have this number of scholarships and this number of coaches, and quite honestly, and that collectively as a group, this is all you can have, a national organization saying we're going to minimize you to keep the cost down, to keep parity and equity in place. And so that is a huge challenge, what you just talked to.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw one other one at you. I'm really, I'm so appreciative of what football did for me from an education standpoint. I mentioned that, my kind of humble backgrounds, and just football gave me an opportunity to, and I'm prideful of my education, but I wouldn't have had that if it hadn't been for football. And I'm worried about, with all the freedoms, even kind of going back to the 70s when we had a lot of these problems. You're not old enough, I am, to remember that's why all the rules were in place, was the craziness of the 70s. But I'm worried that we're going to end up transferring all over the place in this process, and that people aren't going to get degrees. And I think that, boy, if there's anything that really changed my life besides football, and football did, that was the number one thing that changed my life, was this game gave me so much, both from an individual standpoint and also from a professional standpoint, but was my education. And I'm really worried about our scholastic model.
There's no question, losing sight of the value of getting a college degree changes lives, and how we navigate through this. And some of that might be the learning curve we're experiencing now, so that whatever it is in a year or two, we can make adjustments to bring it back. So that we've got players that come to programs and are able to finish at programs with a college degree and not losing sight of that value. And again, I'll tell you, I do think there's some compensation that should come the way of the player. There's no question. I'll say it this way, December we go out recruiting, I do home visits, and whatever, I go to about 12 different ones in December. A little compensation would matter when I walk into the two-bedroom apartment and there's 9 people living in there, versus the next day I go to a place and this house is probably $2.5 million. And so, there's a difference. So I don't think all these guys are just, I got to get for my money. This is a little bit back to a family, $1,000 check or things like that. It makes a huge difference. Still bringing it back to, that's not the only thing they're considering. It's part of the equation now, but it goes back to this college degree and lifetime, being able to earn and live the life you want. A college degree is going to be a huge part to get you on that path.
Yeah. Everyone appreciates you being out here. Again, some of the challenges we just talked about, it's going to be us in unity, right? It's the collective voice of coaches, that we're all on the same page, that we recognize that this is not a business. We are it is our responsibility to take these young people that we have, and regardless of the pressures to win, at any level, it's our job to take them and mold them and do the exact same thing that was true 40 years ago. Dabo Swinney talked about it the other day, right? There's some, Willie Fritz talked about it yesterday, about there's some things in our game that haven't changed over the last 40 years, and they're not going to change over the next 40. Even though the game evolves, some principles stay the same. And so, Coach Smith, it's just been outstanding being up here with you. Appreciate you taking the time, sharing just some personal thoughts. This is kind of a unique environment that a lot of times our guys don't have a chance to kind of get real personal, and we hope that you enjoyed it, and I know that you gave some young coaches.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm, on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA Convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.